we gave away our inheritance money. And we're going to talk about that coming up.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back to an all-new edition of the Sunday Night Sit-Down with America's #1 money couple. I'm Talaat.
And I'm Tai, and we're from hisandhermoney.com, where we're managing money, marriage, and everything in between.
The Sunday Night Sit-Down is being sponsored by Mass Mutual.
Then there are moments it becomes clear. Together always was and always will be a better way.
So you heard us correctly. We gave away every last dime of our inheritance money. And we're kind of happy about that.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't look at it as a bad thing.
Yeah.
You know, we're right here in the middle of Black History Month. And during this time, you know, it's a time to reflect on where we've been, where we are, and even where we are going. And I thought about, you know, the history of our family. And I was just thinking about where I came from. You know, my father, he was raised in Long Branch, New Jersey, and his father way back when was a rarity because he had his own boxing gym. He was an entrepreneur and he provided for his family that way, and he had a really strong work ethic that he imparted into all of his children, my father being one of them. And my father, he worked tirelessly, and he was a hard-working man, a provider, and he worked for the government for a number of years until he retired. And, you know, he instilled a lot of those principles into me, and I'm a replica of him. At least I strive to be every single day. And my mother, she grew up in Hattiesburg, Mississippi during the Jim Crow era, and she experienced a lot of things that made her want to leave Mississippi. In fact, right after she graduated high school, she was on a train to Chicago to live with some of her older brothers and to start out on a new life. And she often shares with me some of the experiences that she had to endure. You know, there was 8 kids and her mom in a 3-room house, not a 3-bedroom house.
3 rooms. She said there was
3 rooms.
Front room, middle room, and then the back room, which was the kitchen.
Yeah, they used to call it a shotgun house, and they didn't have plumbing indoors. They had an outhouse, and my mom says that, you know, they were poor. She's like, not P-O-O-R, P-O.
Yeah.
They was poor, but they had a lot of love. They had a roof over their head and they had food to eat. But she had to endure a lot to get to where she is in life today. And so she came up here to Chicago and started out her new life and worked hard and eventually started her own daycare and then retired from that. And just a lot of the history that she shares with me about growing up in the Jim Crow South, and even when she came up here to Chicago, there was a lot of discrimination going on during that time that she had to endure as well. And so a lot of their upbringings really fueled them and motivated them to position themselves in life to give me more opportunities than they had. And that right there is the definition of legacy. So they worked hard, and we were at first in the inner city of Chicago, and eventually they like scraped every last dime that they could because they wanted to move to the suburbs and just have like grass and a garage. You know, that was something that they didn't have, and so they did that. And they were always on me about education, and they were just always on me about being the best that I could be at every single thing that I did. And that is legacy, and it's important to leave that type of legacy.
Legacy is so very important. You know, everyone should be legacy minded, and you should be thinking about your legacy today. Who is counting on you today, and who will be counting on you tomorrow, regardless if you have children or if you don't have children. You know, I remember almost 4 years ago when my father-in-law, your father, went home to be with the Lord in heaven, and that was a day that I will never forget. It's so vividly branded in my memory. And I remember that time. You are the only child, right? And so I remember I stepped up and I said, you know what? I'm going to help my mom-in-law, or I like to call her mother-in-law, and I'm going to help her, you know, plan the funeral. And I did a lot of the work, she and I both. I remember having to write out the program. I remember having to sit there in the hospital and wait for the funeral director to come, you know, to retrieve the body. I remember everything. I remember picking out the casket. I remember sitting, you know, in the funeral home with your mom, going over all of the different plans. And I remember seeing the dollar amounts. I knew that funerals were expensive. I've heard of it my whole life, but when you really see it, it is expensive. Thousands and thousands. I'm talking about 10,000 plus and up, right? And so I remember that, but I also remember something so very keen. I remember during that time of mourning and grieving, I remember my mother-in-law or love not having to really stress. She didn't have to think about the numbers. She didn't have to think about necessarily, price. She wanted to make sure that her husband had the best, and she wasn't cutting any corners. I remember that. I remember that vividly, and I knew that she didn't have to worry because my father-in-law was definitely legacy-minded before he left here. He made sure that he had things in place. So when he left here, he made sure that your mom was going to be taken care of. She wasn't going to have to worry about anything. But guys, I was not expecting. One day, my mother-in-law came ringing the doorbell. She said, "Hey guys, I got to come by, have to go over some things with you guys." We said, "Oh, okay, Mom, no problem, come on over." She came over, and I remember we were standing here in the kitchen, and she pulled out a sheet of paper, and it was your portion of the life insurance policy that we had no idea that, we were going to receive. And I remember being proudly offended, if that's a word, I wasn't offended in a sense like, how dare you, because I was so grateful. But I remember being proudly offended, almost saying, "Oh, no, 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 no." I remember, wait, it was in your name, and I was pretty much doing what I was talking. I'm like, "Oh, no, 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 we don't want that. No, that's okay. We want to make sure that you're okay, And I remember she was so humble about it, and yet she, took our wishes, and she did exactly that. I remember you signed the check back over to your mother.
Yep.
And you all, this was not pennies, okay? I wish that I could tell you the dollar amount, but it's not important. It was a lot of money. And I remember not even flinching in that moment because we had no need for it. But I remember being so very proud, saying, "Wow, they did it right. They did it right." You know what I mean? They did it right. Your parents were concerned about you, and they knew that they were going to be taken care of, and your mother had more than she really needed. And I was just like, wow, they did it right. Your father didn't know, your parents didn't know our future. They didn't know if we were going to really, really need that money at that moment, but they were planning for the future. And you know what? We had a choice. That's powerful. We had a choice to say, "No, Mom, that's okay. We don't have any need of it. You keep it." That says a lot. That says a lot. It's kind of twofold. We were making sure that we put things in place with our home financially and making sure that we leave a legacy even for our children. Because you know what? The truth of the matter is the roles can reverse. You live your entire life, or majority of your life, your parents probably taking care of you and providing for you. But there are some times where you may have to take care of your parents, right? When your father passed, your mother came here and she stayed with us and she lived with us, for a little while. And I was happy for that. I was happy that we were able to do that. But again, I was proudly offended.
Yeah.
I was proudly offended, but it just had me thinking, wow, that's legacy. That is legacy.
And we want that not just for us and the legacy we're trying to create for our children, but we want that for you and the legacy that you're trying to create for your household as well. I read an interesting study that took place in 2013, and it was interesting for a couple of reasons. It stated that 80% of African Americans have life insurance, and that sounds good, right? It was trying to paint this picture that, wow, African Americans are kind of outpacing other races when it comes to taking out life insurance policies. But then when you read a little bit further, it said that because African Americans have the mindset of they don't want to be a burden to their families when they leave here. Again, that sounds all right on the surface, but then when you go a little bit deeper, you find that the average household in this study had a $10,000 policy. So a lot of people were taking out policies from their employer, but the average was only $10,000. And like Ty said, when we were going through the process of going through everything for my father's funeral, it was upwards of $10,000. So a lot of times the policies that are in place are just enough to cover the expenses of burial, not enough to leave a financial legacy for generations to come. And that's the mindset that we want to impart to you all. We want you to not just not be a burden to your family. We want you to use what you can to create a financial legacy that goes beyond your funeral, that goes beyond the expenses of your burial, but actually gives your family for generations to come a head start in life, one that you may not have had, and you have the chance to create that for them. That's what we want to impart to you all on today.
Now, if you guys are looking for more information, we definitely highly encourage you to check out massmutual.com. Check out their website. We'll make sure that we put a link in the description box below. They have a ton of information over there for you to get informed. Now, keep in mind, guys, we are not coverage experts. We are not life insurance agencies. So we're not telling you guys to get this amount, but we are telling you that everyone should be concerned about leaving a legacy, one that will be almost unforgettable. You know, my father-in-law, if I had an opportunity to talk to him now, and I said I was not going to get emotional. Man.
It's all right.
I almost finished this video, guys, without a tear, but I loved him dearly. But he would be so proud. He would be so proud to know that, Dad, thanks for thinking of us, but we didn't need the money. Because everything that you taught us, everything that he instilled in you, my parents instilled in me, we actually listened. And we're living the best that we can. We're not perfect, but we sure are trying. So guys, we hope that this video encouraged you. We hope that this video helped inspire you in some way. Please take action. It is so important because one day we're going to leave here. That is a given. But you want to make sure that your family is taken care of. We love you guys. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. We want to hear from you. Leave us a comment in the comment section below and let us know, be honest. Say, you know what, have you started thinking about your legacy? Have you started thinking about your future? Your family that will be counting on you? Will they be taken care of? We want to hear from you. Don't forget, check us out over at our website at hisandhermoney.com and meet us back here next Sunday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, where you will see the both of us sharing with you.
That's all we got for this time, guys. It's been great. Until next time.
Bye, y'all.
Peace.